What's old is new in oil country as the Oilers look to veteran presence on their blue line to shore up the depth with many key losses on the blue line. All that and more today on Oilers Digest, and also some very, very important news from an NHL insider when it comes to Edmonton as a whole. But all of that and more today on Oilers Digest. But we are very, very close to 1,800 subscribers. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us along the ride, and we will get into more Oiler news as training camp opens up. I know there were the informal skates that happened earlier this week with lots of Oilers coming back to Edmonton, or those who have stayed in Edmonton, hop on the ice as soon as they can. Guys like Mattias Ekholm, Zach Hyman, to name a few, were on the ice, and I'm sure before the Oilers captain skates. Later on, we will get many, many more Oilers. But without further ado, Edmonton, a destination, yes, according to Elliotte Friedman, earlier on the 32 Thoughts podcast, the revamped 32 Thoughts podcast this week. He had this to say about Edmonton as a whole. He said, I heard from some agents who told me there were players who took Edmonton off their no-trade list. They had Edmonton there the year before, but they said, you can take Edmonton off. You can talk about the weather, you can talk about the taxes, you can talk about the attention. The number one thing is still, where do I think I can win? Any player you want, that's the number one thing. And players right now think they can win in Edmonton. So that's pretty important news for the Oilers. I mean, to get these players, you do need the cap space, but to have that that ability to go to a player and they will not instantly reject Edmonton because of where it is. Of course, like the only thing regarding Edmonton that most players don't really want is the weather. Northern Alberta is not exactly a destination when you have other cities like Fort Lauderdale or St. Petersburg down in Florida there with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers, or even California too. 3 California teams to pick from. I'm sure Edmonton wouldn't be on any one of your destination spots. But big news. Big news coming out of that. I mean, players, they want to win anything and everything they can to try to win a Stanley Cup. And Elliotte also added on with, Edmonton's management strategy will be to wait, hold, and go out and fill major team needs. They know how hard it's going to be. It's still going to be hard, but they're going to go out there and they're going to get it. And by the way, Edmonton is still looking for another D. You know what I heard who would be interested in potentially playing there? Kevin Shattenkirk. That's an example of what we were talking about, of how Edmonton is coming off the list of places where people do not want to go. I've heard Shattenkirk would love to be a part of that Oilers team if there is a spot for him, and that's pretty big news. I mean, a veteran who has in the past not wanted to play in Edmonton or play in Canada at all, but that's the kind of thing that the Oilers hold over other teams like Winnipeg or Buffalo, who also would join the Oilers on this no team trade list. But they have the star power. Of course, they got Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, Ekholm, Bouchard, Stuart Skinner, and net. I mean, they are a premium destination, and to have someone change their mind on going to Edmonton, that's pretty big. Take a look at Kevin Shattenkirk here. He's pretty sheltered on a Boston Bruins team last year. I mean, he could still produce on the special teams. He was on their power play for a bit. But I mean, when you're asking for a 35-year-old Kevin Shattenkirk to do monumental things, that is not what he can do anymore. I mean, 61 games, 6 goals, 18 assists, 24 points. Again, very sheltered there. And if you put him on the Oilers team, again, third pairing, right side, no pressure, no, you're not expecting him to do the things that he could in St. Louis or Colorado beforehand. I know his agent wanted him on an actual contract and not a PTO, and that's why I think this is dragging along its course to where it is right now. But back in the summer of 2016, or summer 2017, I should say, according to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch writer Jeremy Rutherford, the Oilers and Blues had a trade in place to trade Taylor Hall for Kevin Shattenkirk last June. Despite the deal being in place, Shattenkirk vetoed the move, and now, of course, the Oilers back in 2016 there, they weren't built like the way they are now, and so Kevin Shattenkirk realizing, hey, the twilight of his career, Edmonton could be the number one place. And when it comes to the Oilers, the cap situation right now and, defensive targets, it's difficult to say which teams will find themselves in seller mode before the season has even started. But a few names jump out as future trade targets when looking at next summer's UFA list. Guys like David Savard, Brian Dumoulin, and Alec Martinez all play for teams unlikely to make the playoffs and could be options to give the Oilers experience depth on their blue line. Guys like Claude Giroux and Yanni Gourde are veteran forwards who come to mind if the Oilers decide they need to add up front. And I mean, those are very targetable names, but there's also, a few, a shot in the dark, but I mean, in today's world, you never know. Almost all the stars of next summer's free agent class play for contenders. Guys like Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Jamie Benn, and Mikko Rantanen. Of course, the Leafs are going to have to figure out those dominoes with Marner and Tavares, and they appear very unlikely to move. But one player surely to be front and center in trade discussions until he signs an extension is a guy in Sidney Crosby, as the Pittsburgh Penguins have missed out on the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. Now, I mean, when it comes to, Sid joining the Oilers, I mean, again, shot in the dark, but it'd be nice to see. But just going at the draft pick summary, when it comes to making a trade, I mean, the cupboards in future years, could the Oilers mortgage their future and trade like a potential 2026 first this year at the trade deadline, or try to acquire dead pieces by keeping their big draft picks? That's a Stan Bowman problem. Of course, Stan Bowman, he's been known to sort of mortgage the future for those Cup Dynasty teams with the Chicago Blackhawks. But it remains to be seen. Just looking at the Oilers roster here, on the left side and the right side, again, the depth, not exactly, the most memorable when you're losing a guy like Cody Ceci. I know Oilers fans dogged on him, and Philip Broberg, but yeah, the left and right side, again, not the most bona fide defensive, depth in the league, but it's something. It's not the worst, but it's certainly not the best. And you can see here, when it comes to the age rankings around the NHL, the Edmonton Oilers rank first at an average age of a little over 30 years old, and their key to solving that problem would just be making it worse. With Mark Giordano, Leafs latest here says the Maple Leafs, as well as the Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, and Buffalo Sabres, are amongst the teams that have spoken with Mark Giordano's camp this offseason, per his agent Rich Winter. I don't know why the Oilers are exactly doing this. I don't know if it's for veteran presence or if it's just, a last case scenario here. I mean, 40 years old. He's kind of the wrong side of 40, is what happens when you do hit 40, but he seems to be a poor man's Nick Lidstrom. He's still serviceable, but again, it would just be sheltering. Again, don't really know why the Oilers would go for a guy like Mark Giordano, especially on the left side there. I mean, you already have aging guys like Mattias Ekholm, and Brett Kulak is getting up there, along with Darnell Nurse, who turns 30 this year. Mark Giordano, of course, to Oilers fans, very, very familiar with this incident. And it would sort of be reminiscent, if the Oilers do pick up Mark Giordano, it would be reminiscent of this, the Brandon Manning trade, when obviously he broke Connor McDavid's collarbone in his rookie year. I know Giordano, he was remorseful about it, but still, that would kind of leave a sour taste in my mouth if the Oilers, do give Mark Giordano PTO. Again, that would sort of be like the enemy joining us. I said the same thing about Corey Perry, but he never did anything to that extent. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this whole situation. Giordano or Shattenkirk, which one would you prefer, or would you wait until the trade deadline to go after a bigger fish? That's it for today's video. Have yourselves a fantastic day. I'm Matt, and have a great week.